So I'll start by letting you know how I got these tips. Let's see, this is July. So the end of June, I flew out to Dallas because my younger sister just had a baby, a little baby girl, and I was going to visit and help with the baby. So I'm on an airplane flying Southwest because it's super cheap. And I have a couple sitting next to me, husband and wife. And I happened to look over during the flight, and they were working together on a laptop on music. Like, you could tell on their screen that it was sheet music, and the husband was changing the key and like changing the vocal arrangement and the piano accompaniment for a piece of music for his wife. And so they were discussing things, like technical things. So of course that piqued my interest, and I didn't want to interrupt or, be like a nosy Rosie. So I waited until toward the end of our flight when, you have to put your laptop away and things like that. And I just said, hey, I couldn't help but noticing you were working on some music. What is your profession? What do y'all do? And it turns out the husband is a newly retired vocal coach and professor at a university in Texas. I want to say Texas Tech, but I'm not positive. Maybe UT. See, that's why I should just say university in Texas. Excuse me. A university in Texas. And then his wife was also retired, and she had been a choir director for 20 plus years in the school system in Texas as well. So I then shared with them what I am doing in this alto group, and that I had created a course to help altos learn to sight read and gain some confidence in their singing, and then also that I have a Facebook group where we share ideas and just sort of, I'm out to help altos the best way I can. And so specifically to the wife, since she had been a lifelong choral director, I wondered if she had some tips specifically for y'all. And so she did give some really great examples of things to try that I'll be sharing with you in a moment. And then also her husband piped in and gave some great tips as well. So here we go. I have next to me right here the notes that I made while we were in the flight. And the first one is regards to warming up. So a lot of us tend to warm up exactly the way we say it, where we would start in a lower range and then warm up, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But something they recommended is actually for altos, it could be helpful for you to warm from the top down, because we all have a chest voice, which is where I'm speaking from right now. You can kind of hear that like gravelly, lower tone to my voice. And then we have a head voice, and for altos specifically, that break is usually around D, a high D. And so it can be difficult to warm past that break, because if you're warming from the bottom up, you're just already in chest voice. And then once you reached that break, you would just kind of drop out and think, okay, well, this is the sopranos department, so I'll catch y'all when you get back down into my range. Whereas if you were to start from the top down, you would start in head voice, and then it would help to smooth that transition between head voice and chest voice as you come down. So I thought that was a really great solution for something that is a very common issue, specifically for altos, is that chest voice, head voice break. So great tip. And then also, when you're sight reading or learning a piece, Excuse me. When you're learning a piece of music that is new to you, or difficult, like to hear your part, you can cover one of your ears, or sometimes you'll see people like plug their ear, put a finger in their ear. But covering is a little, I just want to say less rude, because certainly visually it just sort of looks bad if you're like plugging your ear. But if you're cupping, you get the same effect without that visual turn off. But that would help you to hear your own voice louder than all the voices around you. So this would specifically be helpful if, for instance, you are next to someone who is either singing very loudly the wrong part or singing very loudly a different part, like if you're next to the sopranos or something. So that's something great for sight reading. Also, if possible, to mix up the voices so that the altos aren't connected to the sopranos, so the ladies aren't together. Maybe to put the gentlemen singing in the center of the choir, and the sopranos and the altos then would be separated by the male vocal parts. That can help you to not get so tempted to sort of slide up to the soprano melody if you're a little farther away from it and you don't hear it as loudly. And then the third tip that they gave is to start with something unfamiliar when you're learning the alto line. And this is something that seemed counterintuitive to me at first, but then once we got to talking about it, it definitely started to make more sense. As a choir director, I always tend to start everyone on something that is familiar, because it's something that maybe you're more likely to sing out on because it's something you know really well. However, the alto part is probably not something you know really well. So for instance, if it's Christmas time and we're singing Joy to the World, well, you probably grew up singing Joy to the World, but you sang the melody. You weren't singing the alto line. So it's going to be actually more difficult for you to learn the alto line of Joy to the World. More difficult, especially than if we were to say start with, I don't know, I'm just going to make up something like Little Drummer Boy, let's say, which is also a familiar song, but so it's not a great example. But if we were to start with something that no one knew and it was a completely new piece of music, well, then learning the alto line is going to be easier because you're not fighting that desire or that ingrained melody that you grew up with. So, great tips, 3 great tips from some professionals that I just happened to sit next to on the airplane. So I thought that was really fortuitous, and I'm really glad that they were kind enough to share their expertise with us.